So the TikTok community has been frying their brains over the idea of geniuses versus talented learners, and I've somewhat ignored it because the concept seems simple to me. But it's gotten so bad that I feel the need to talk about it. It really isn't that hard from what I understand, but I feel like people are overcomplicating it. So I'm just gonna kind of discuss it because I feel the need to do that. It really seems so simple to me, but maybe I'm like delusional. Okay, I'll get into it. Chapter 281, Ego talks about how sometimes there are like errors in DNA and copies and things like that, whatever he's yapping about, and that can cause a child to be, I guess, different from their parents. Maybe they're taller, they get a speed boost, they're more sensitive to feelings and things like that. Now, Ego says there are people who do things that are extraordinary that they try to push out into the world but cannot be comprehended by it. That is what he calls a genius. But for society to understand that expression, they need someone else. And that someone else that can value and understand its worth and how it functions and how they think, and they can truly bring it out into the world. Those are what he calls talented learners. Now, he uses that metaphor with Henri and says it's the same with soccer. The mutant geniuses with abnormal physical abilities and incredible plays become a singularity point. And by analyzing the geniuses and forming new tactics or using data to counter them, the talented learners develop plays using a new kind of logic. That's how soccer has evolved. Now let's look at world style and self-style. The self-style egoist highly regards themselves. The rules of the world are secondary importance to them, but them immersing in their feelings and their fixations are top priority. Whereas the world style values what other people see. They value achievements, being praised by others. That is something that they value. Now, people in the BlueLock fandom believe that there is a hybrid style, one that has the qualities of both a genius and a world style. And at this point in the story, I don't believe that, but once we get a confirmation that that is the case, then yeah, I was wrong. But the characters that they like to mention that are mixed have some inconsistencies that help differentiate that while yes, there are traits that one could get from the other, they're still that style. They are still a talented learner or a genius. Now, the most obvious one, Rin. Rin was encapsulating Sai's style, and he was a talented learner, a world style egoist. But Rin isn't that. He is a genius. He's a self style. So of course, Sai's play style and way of thinking can only take him so far. But that still doesn't mean that he doesn't have the trait of a talented learner. But it's just that his peak performance comes from acknowledging that he is a genius and giving into his impulses. Another is Noah. Now, some people like to say that because of Noah's high rationality, he's a mixed brain egoist, that he has properties of both a genius and talented learner. I'd have to disagree. From what I see it, rationality is Germany's or BM style of play. It's not so much that it's only Noah's thinking. It is how Germany functions. When we see the NEL, we see that the different clubs have different styles of functioning. Manshine on creating a body and on creating a body that fits your ideal. Ubers is tactic and defense. Barca is creativity and originality. France is France. I don't even know what's up for France. And BM, specifically BM, is rationality. And Noah, as the master striker, is like the head of that. But we know multiple different times that that idea is contradicted. Ego's first line of quoting Noah is that he'd rather score a hat trick and loot because to him that's what it means to be a striker. That is like the antithesis of being rational. There is no hint of rationality to that. But that's because he's not a talented learner. While yes, he can think logically, he still has those impulses of a genius. Another thing, the talented learner is supposed to take the genius or the unordinary and formulate a plan and strategy. But when Snuffy was kicking the crap out of Noah, what did Noah say? I don't know. Why? Because he is a genius. Yes, he can be smart. Yes, he can be rational. But he has not achieved that level of understanding like talented learners usually do. And that's why Isagi had to come up with the idea for Raichi instead of it being Noah. Now, surprisingly, Isagi's the same. In the match against PXG, When Rin's going all crazy mode, Isagi says no. Are you chasing after something beyond that? Up until now, there have been guys like Nagi, Baro, and Kaiser who seem like prodigies, but the way you are now, you're the first person I've met who I just can't analyze logically. Now, this is something that he says to Rin as someone he considers the beast or ultimate genius, right? I don't remember the exact wording, but if we look at the newest chapter, or the second newest chapter, watch out for Isagi Yoichi. He still hasn't scored yet, so he's gonna try to score with the last play. That theory's too shallow. Our egoist can't be summed up that easily. If he just wanted to score, he'd have a better chance if he and Rin kept passing back and forth until he shot. But the fact that he went out of his way to pass to me means right now Isagi is asking for something else. What Isagi is trying to perform by copying and turning Onazi's awakening into his own arsenal is not logical. It'd be better to have just scored the goal normally, but Isagi wants to test himself. He wants to see beyond his current limits. Isagi is trying to go higher and higher. It's that impulse and curiosity about himself. But who else has that curiosity? Nagi Seishiro. Nagi throughout the story is obviously the biggest case of a genius. Some would say even more than Rin. And if Isagi is also trying to find out that curiosity, then wouldn't that make him also somewhat genius-like? No, because at the end of the day, he's still a talented learner. But you can have traits of both. Like Noah having rationality, Isagi has curiosity. And for the last banger, my GOAT, Michael Kaiser. This one is simple. He is a talented learner through and through, but the Kaiser impact is a talent because it's in the name. Talented learner. The Kaiser impact is something that he built, but also a genetic, because all talented learners have genetic abilities because they're quote talented learners. You can't be on a high world stage and not be talented. And while yes, they aren't as skilled or as bombastic or as out there as the geniuses, that doesn't mean they don't have talent. Reo's talent to copy, Kaiser's Kaiser impact, Sai's entire arsenal of his pinpoint accuracy passes, his dribbling, his analytics, everything. It is impossible for Kaiser to have the world's fastest kick without having some genetic advantage, but that doesn't mean he didn't build it. Loki and Chigiri, for example, there's no way that Loki and Chigiri would be as fast as they are now if they didn't build it, if they didn't train it. Another thing, Nanase is also a genius. He is ambidextrous like Noah, but he's still hot garbage in comparison to many other geniuses and talented learners, because there's more to being good at soccer than just being one of those categories. It's about building it. It's about understanding your play style and how you function. It's about also your genetics and how you build those up. Oliver Aiku can jump as high or higher than heck even Rin and Aryu, but does that make him a genius? No, he's still a talented learner. He just happens to have good genetics because he's like 6 billion foot tall and he trained himself. I think people are treating this too much like shonen power system, but in reality, it's just simple human math. All humans can or cannot have a certain talent that they have or a certain genetic advantage that they could have. But what makes the difference between the geniuses and the talented learners is the state of mind. The geniuses are bombastic. They take what they have and they express it out into the world. And what the talented learners have to do is to understand that and comprehend that so they can make tactics and ideas to fight against that. Now, could I absolutely be wrong? Of course. And I'd be fine with being wrong because that means we have more to explore out of BlueLock. But for now, that's the dichotomy between the geniuses and talented learners really isn't that hard of a thing to analyze or understand, at least from my perspective. Maybe I'm looking at it too simply, or maybe I'm not looking at it deeply enough, and that's my bad. But to me, that's the simple understanding of geniuses and talented learners.